Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SBTN. My name is David Vo, and I'll be your host for today's news broadcast. Today's topic will be about Chinese immigration and the construction of the railroad. Between 1865, the end of the Civil War, and 1914, the start of World War I, immigration reached its peak with over 25 million immigrants immigrating to the United States. Of those numbers, 40,000 were made up of Chinese immigrants from Eastern Asia. During the mid-1800s, the Chinese population in China was over 430 million. Due to high population, they were faced with high unemployment and famine from shortage of land. In 1850, the Taiping Rebellion, a civil war in China, broke out and over 40,000 Chinese immigrants immigrated to Angel Island in the United States, located in California. In 1860, as construction began, the Chinese began to take jobs as railroad and construction workers, merchants, small business owners, and laborers. When immigrating to the United States, they brought their skills and talents with them. With many Chinese people working on the railroad, Americans began to hire more Chinese workers as they were skilled craftsmen who were willing to be paid with low wages. Because of the large Chinese workforce available, the construction of the Central Pacific Railroad was made possible. That began in 1860. Now here's Andy Huynh with a report at the site of the Central Pacific Railroad.
Thanks, David. I'm here in the Sierra Nevada mountains, where Chinese immigrants worked diligently to construct the Central Pacific Railroad. This railroad connected with the Union Pacific in 1869 in Ogden, Utah. This connection linked the Pacific and Atlantic to form the very first transcontinental railroad. The Chinese immigrated to the U.S. at Angel Island in hopes for independence and job opportunities. They were skilled craftsmen as their ancestors were responsible for the creation of the Great Wall of China. And that's the history fact of the day. Back to you, David.
Well, thanks, Andy, for the informative insights. The success of the construction of the railroad and the job opportunities for Chinese workers caused many immigrants of different races to envy at the job opportunities taken away. This jealousy led to anti-Chinese sentiments, and this led to many radical violence and discrimination. In 1870, a man named Dennis Kearney, an Irish immigrant, organized a working man's party of California to fight against Chinese immigration. His rebellion led to his party winning seats in the legislation of California, which tried to pass laws against Chinese immigration. Their efforts were successful, leading Congress to pass the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882, a law which barred Chinese immigration for 10 years and prevented those who were already in the United States to become U.S. citizens. Children who attended schools in the United States were sent to oriented schools designed for only Chinese children. By that time, the Chinese were highly discriminated against, and the other immigrants would do anything possible to threaten them. We were able to meet up and interview a Chinese railroad worker who told us about his life in China and his journey to the United States. And now stay tuned as we listen to Chichum Ngauvo's testimony. Hello, my name Chichum. Hi, Xiongdoi. I lived in a small village in eastern China. Being the oldest of 15 children, life was already hard as it is. We were a poor family, living off of whatever we hunted that day, alongside with rice or noodles that my parents had provided. I'd wake up before the sun rises, run out to the farm, then to the rice field, and begin to work till the sun burned my back. Then my brothers and I would take the boat out to the river and fish for dinner that night. At home, my mothers and sisters worked to clean up the house, wash the clothes, and be ready to cook once we bring home the meat. During the Taiping Rebellion, our house was invaded and we lost everything. All that was standing was a little fruit tree that stood by itself, alone, around the deserted, burnt village. There was no other choice. We heard of a boat it would bring us to a new life, a life as an American. When arriving, we got separated, but later, we all found each other. We lived in an old building along with many other families from the boat. One day, my father comes home and says that to live, we must work. We got hired to begin the construction of the railroads. The next week, we all packed our stuff and hiked up the mountains to find many other workers just like me, getting ready to build tracks. The work was hard, but I knew that I had to work to survive. If not, someone else would take my job. We worked from sunrise to sunset, with little to no breaks whatsoever. After a hard day's work, I go home to my family, and we all sat together as we prayed for a miracle that would happen. When we finally finished building and the railroad was done, the sight was magnificent. The railroad was loud and could carry both people and materials. Trains roared so loud as it passed by. Finishing the project, we all got paid, but not a lot. But there was one problem. Once the Chinese Exclusion Act began, my life totally changed. We were all segregated, and jobs were being taken away from us. People were really mean to us. My siblings had to attend an all-Chinese school. Life for us started to get really rough. I don't know when this will change. I just wanted a new life, a life where I was treated equally. Thank you for watching today's news broadcast. My name is David Vogt, and I hope to see you all again. Thank you.